Hello, David Moore with Bob Nelson of Pacwest Real Estate once again. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to talk a little bit about controlling transactions and the importance of that 45 days, huh, Bob?
Exactly.
So I don't think there's a more important period of time in an exchange. The 180 is problematic at times, but the 45 is always an issue for everyone. And for those out there, there's no extending that 45 days short of a national disaster. So don't plan on having an extension there just because you want to extend it. So, we're in a tight market, and we're having things get stretched out, and we are in a situation where you cannot extend that 45 days for any reason.
Right.
So I guess what I'll tell my clients is it's critical that you are all in or all out on the day 45, because if you are not totally committed and you come to me on day 50 and say, gee, the properties I identified went away, I want my money, that's a whole nother conversation, because bottom line, you're not going to get it till day 181. And that's not our company's policy. It's unfortunately part of the G6 rules of 1031. So with that said, in a market like we're in, Bob, what are you doing with your clients to minimize the importance of that 45-day time period, or to control properties that have been identified?
Those are two different subjects, but I like to work with a person at least 2 months in advance of the time that we sell the property we're going to be exchanging proceeds forward into the replacement property. So if we have this opportunity to get together, give me an opportunity to see things through your mind, through your eyes, and to understand what you're trying to accomplish with this transaction, then as the hammer falls, as you sell your relinquished property, the 45-day period starts. It is unforgiving, like you said. It is absolutely unforgiving. 45 days is 45 calendar days, not business days, etc. So if you're working with me and I'm engineering the transaction, you're going to have roughly 2 weeks to look for any property that you would like in the United States or its possessions. I would really prefer that you not cross state lines, but if it's needed to perceive and
I don't care if you cross state lines. He does.
Right, it's just me.
Actually, for my friend Bob, we want you to not pass state lines.
Exactly. It makes it a little more difficult, and sometimes a lot more difficult. But if we could stick with properties that are listed for sale, look at anything that you would like. I'm going to be feeding you properties every day. Every day you're going to be receiving properties that seem to have the benefits that you indicated that you were after. You have the right, of course, as my client, to eliminate anything. You just have to tell me why you've eliminated it, so I don't I can do a correction. 2 clicks to the left, 1 to the up, and now we're producing a different property that you would consider. But at the end of that 2-week period, we have to be making offers on the very best property that has met your criteria, the one you selected that you would go with. Now, that's not to infer that I'm going to let you get away with only identifying one thing. If we've got 3 chambers in the gun, we're going to have 3 bullets in that thing, and when the 45th day hits. But if you say, this is the one I want, this would satisfy my exchange, that's fine. At the end of the 2nd week, we will be making offers. It may take me a week with counter offers, with other maneuvers to control the property. But by the end of about the 3rd week, I need to be bringing in the due diligence crew to evaluate the property to make sure it's as was represented, and frequently it's not. Whoever is bringing the broker that's bringing the thing in likes to tell me about next year's income and half of last year's expenses, and that's why the cap rate is such and such. And I get to the bottom of that quickly. I want to see copies of leases. I want to do a walkthrough on the property. Yes, that's going to disrupt the tenants, and the owner of the property doesn't like that to happen. But they will see that we're very serious and we understand what we're doing. And we will have our due diligence out of the way by the 4th week. You will have been pre-qualified by a lender, and the lender will have the appraisal ordered, and we'll have a pretty good hint that we will not have problems with the appraisal hitting the number that is needed in order to get the loan that we need to have in order to replace debt, if that's our objective, or to create debt on the next property. If you'll do this, there's a pretty good chance that we know we can close within that 45-day period. That is an absolute fire drill. But if it's done just right, it can be accomplished. The only requirement you have is to write on a piece of paper If you're using the 3 property rule, write on a piece of paper what those 3 properties are, hand them to David. That's all that's required by the code. And what happens on the 46th day if they all go away? Guess what? You get to pay the tax. I don't like to see an opportunity for that to happen, because people will remember that I failed in doing my job, and I'll never want to fail.
Well, and they'll be mad at me too, because
Well,
if they've ID'd
but
the
they'll be
properties
throwing
and
rocks at me.
now it's day 50, those properties went
Yeah,
away, and now they want the
yeah.
money back, and
So you've
once
got to
again we're
control
stuck.
them. You've got to do the due diligence. You have to know exactly, yes, I will take this property. I know its physical condition. I've reviewed the leases. I understand what the position of each of the tenants would be that's generating the income that causes the return that impressed me to go after it to begin with. But if it's done just right, you've eliminated a lot of the risk. Did I say we would have eliminated all the risk? Heavens no. Things can go wrong. Stuff just happens. But if you perceive all of the opportunities of failure, and you have encountered or put together a plan that would eliminate the majority of those things, at least we've got a running chance of 100% success. And that's what I'm after. It's 100%. And that's what you're after. So
Oh,
you're the
definitely.
best
We
at
want
what
we
you
want
do.
happy,
There we
happy,
go.
successful investors.
Exactly.
Well, thank you,
Absolutely.
and we'll speak again very quickly.
Very much.
Thank you very much.